Mr. President, I would like to read a few quotes from some of my Democrat colleagues from the past couple of months. This is from November the 6th, and I quote, "We did fail to bring down the cost of health care," end quote. This is from September the 30th, and I quote, right now, we have a broken health care system. Nobody can afford health care," end quote. This one, Mr. President, is from December the 3rd, and I quote again, "I think we all agree there's brokenness to the whole system," end quote. Again, from December the 3rd, and I quote, "As much as we disagree on things, I just want to note the underlying agreement that this system needs a lot of reform," end quote. Now, all, as I said, Mr. President, of these are quotes from my Democrat colleagues in just the past couple of months. Every quote is an implicit omission that Obamacare has failed. Back in 2009, of course, Democrats were arguing that Obamacare was going to fix health care. This was a quote from that time. "An historic bill that will finally reform our broken health care system and help millions of our families and small businesses get the coverage they need at a price they can afford. It is about time," end quote. That again, a senior senator, a Democrat senator from back in 2009, Mr. President. Or in the words of the Democrat leader, and I quote again, "Who would have thought that we could finally get a handle on the thing that is driving our budget deficit to great heights, which is health care costs, and at the same time do so much good by covering so many people," end quote. Well, now, contrast that with the words of the Democrat leader today, Mr. President, and I quote again, "The health care crisis is so deep and so real," end quote. The health care crisis is so deep and so real. In other words, Mr. President, Democrats' great scheme to fix health care, Obamacare, has failed. So what are Democrats proposing to do this week, Mr. President? Introduce reforms? Perhaps try a different approach? Well, no, that would be wrong, Mr. President, if you assume that. They have announced plans to throw good money after bad. They proposed a clean 3-year extension of the enhanced Obamacare subsidies. Clean, Mr. President. No reforms, no revisions. Just billions of additional taxpayer dollars to prop up part of a program that has utterly failed to reduce health care costs. Mr. President, since 2013, premiums from Obamacare enrollees have risen 221%. 221%. In other words, this program is doing the very opposite of lowering health care costs. And as if soaring premiums weren't a big enough problem, the exchanges are rife with potential for waste, fraud, and abuse. A damning report from the Government Accountability Office released last week found that the exchanges continue to enroll fake individuals, are improperly paying out subsidies, and are failing to ensure payment accuracy, potentially putting taxpayers on the hook for millions or billions in improper payments. And so I might just show you, this is what the GAO found, the Government Accountability Office, Mr. President, and this just came out literally just this last week. This was a finding on their behalf, on their part, that Obamacare subsidies granted without documentation to 90% of fake accounts. So in other words, what the Government Accountability Office did is they ran an audit of the exchanges in which these insurance policies change hands and found that 90% of these fake accounts, Mr. President, were granted subsidies without documentation. Think about that. 90% of this investigation, these accounts they checked, they created fake accounts to see if in fact they would get a government subsidy, and they did. 90% failure rate. in this program. And so we have spiraling health care costs, a program incredibly vulnerable, as is this is evidence, to vulnerable to fraud and abuse. And again, Democrats are proposing that we do absolutely nothing. No reforms, no revisions, no safeguards. Just billions more in taxpayer dollars. Mr. President, Republicans have made it very clear that we would like to work with Democrats to address the affordability of health care and find solutions that actually reduce costs. But as Democrats have made clear with this, quote, clean bill, they're not really after health care solutions. They seem to be okay with a 90% fraud rate. They're after a political issue to attempt to batter Republicans with during this next election year. And if that means a proposal to throw more money at a program they know very well is failing, it's documented, then that's what they're going to go with. I'll quote again, Mr. President, as much as we disagree on things, I just want to note the underlying agreement that this system needs a lot of reform, end quote. Again, the words, Mr. President, of a Democrat senator. And she's right. This system does need reform, and a lot of it. It's too bad Democrats aren't interested in making any.